Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. There's plenty of people flocking in, so we'll just give this a few more minutes until we start off our session today. And good morning to you, Antonio. Thanks for sharing a message there. We'll get started soon. We'll just give everyone a few more minutes to join if they're coming from other meetings and things. We've got a great session set up for you today with our solutions engineer, Elaine Perrins, who will be running through some key functionalities of Hireserve. It's great to see so many of you joining today, especially before the Christmas break, so thanks for taking the time to do so. We'll just give it, as I say, a few more minutes to let a few more people join, and then we will get started. Okay, we'll give it 30 more seconds to let anyone else join, just to make sure that everyone's had the time to do so, and then we'll get started. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining our XCD University session. Today we're focusing on Hireserve. I just want to take you through a few slides before I hand over to Elaine Perrins, who's our solutions engineer from Hireserve. The XCD University was set up a couple of months ago. We've run a couple of sessions on the XCD side, and this is our first session on the Hireserve side. The aims of the session is to really highlight how you can best utilize Hireserve within your organization. So today, supported by Sharon Baker, our customer success manager, and myself, a customer success manager here at XCD, we've got Elaine Perrins from Hireserve, our solutions engineer, and Elaine will be taking us through 5 key features of Hireserve for you to utilize. These are free features for you to utilize. They're all standard features within the product. Some may require some configuration or to be switched on, so please get in touch with Sharon or myself to do so. Sharon, if you could just enter a few more people in the lobby there, that'd be great. Thank you. So yeah, if there's anything today that you see throughout Elaine's session that isn't turned on in your environment, please feel free to get in touch with Sharon or myself, and we can work together with you to implement those. The question and answer function is available in today's session, as is the chat if anyone wants to have a conversation. We've got a pretty packed session for the next hour or so, so we'll take all the questions in, and then Sharon and I are working through till Christmas Eve, till the bitter end this year, so we'll be able to come back to you individually with any answers that you've got to your questions, or of course just be able to reach out to us individually as you see fit. That's the running order for today. As I say, these are 5 key areas of functionality to help you create efficiencies in your workflows internally. So we're going to focus on the hiring manager portal, the interview scheduler, assessment criteria, talent pooling, and notifications. All of these features do have user guides available to you in the customer support portal via the Hireserve hub. So please go and check that out, and we'll be providing a link to that as well at the end of the session, which I've got in the final slide. I'll now hand over to Elaine, who's going to run you through these functions. So that'll probably take around sort of 45 to 50 minutes or so. But as I say, if you've got any questions while Elaine's going through those and they come to your mind and they're fresh in your mind, please post them in the chat and we'll address those afterwards for you. But yeah, over to yourself, Elaine. Thanks so much again for joining, everyone.
Thanks, Johnny. Yep, and thanks everyone for taking the time out today. It is going to be a packed session. It is whistle stop. It is mainly an overview. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and then I can show you what I'm talking about. So I'm just clicking share now. Hopefully now that's going to share my screen. Johnny, you're the only one I can see. Can you stick your thumb up if you're sharing? Got it. Thank you very much there. Okay. And I've got an annoying banner. I'll just move out of the way. So this is Hireserve. As you all know, this is in the recruiter portal or the back end of the system. And on the far left-hand side here now, you'll see your menu options. Now, you've all configured your systems. You've all been using them for quite a while. So obviously the layout, the terminology may be different. But one thing a little bit of housekeeping that I just want to show you today, because if any of you do want to follow me through the demo here to see that what you've got is actually live on your system, then the easiest way to do that, from the left-hand side here on configuration, you expand the back office settings, and then the menu options, it's already expanded, and go to menu item administration. From here, this is how you get everything onto this menu here on the left. So if you can't see something here, which I'm using, because the whole point of today is to highlight what you've already got but might not be using. And as someone said to me recently, they said, oh, we only use what we know. Then you don't know what you're not using and what's there. That is what today is all about, to bring to your attention what you could be doing and could be using, focusing on a few key areas, of course. So if there are things that need to be added to your menu options on the left-hand side here, this is how you do it. Now, of course, for complete transparency, as Johnny said, everything I'm going to show you today is free. If I just whiz up this menu here on the left, I do have the Hire Checks module showing here, which is our only optional extra module. It's not part of the demo today, but when I am saying everything I'm showing you is part of your core system, just want to make that clear. So everything I'm going to show you in detail now, you should have access to. For if you can't, for any reason, it may need switching on, just go back to Johnny or Sharon, as they've already said. So from the dashboard here, again, because of the configurability of Hireserve, all your dashboards may look different, but your core dashboard is your dashboard at the end of the day. And I'm going to start off with showing you the Hiring Manager portal. Believe it or not everybody knows we've got it, and not everyone is using it. So you'll know whether you've had that switched on. This is something we have to switch on for you, but it is still part of your core system. It went live, I want to say, about 4 years ago, just before Hireserve was acquired by the XCD Group. So there was a lot going on at that time. You may have missed the email and the notifications. In the top right-hand corner here now, you've got that Head and Shoulders icon. When you click on that, if you don't have the words here, turn on Hiring Manager Portal, then please contact us and we'll get that switched on for you. This is a completely new view and such a fantastic way of working. I will say though, because I'm honest, I think it's wrongly named. We sort of refer to it now as the front end of the system because anybody can use it. It doesn't have to be hiring managers. It was aimed at hiring managers, absolutely, because it's so user-friendly. But I'm logged in today as a recruiter, which is why I've got access to that entire menu option on the left. But also as a recruiter, I can use the Hiring Manager portal. So for your day-to-day managing within the system, use the Hiring Manager portal. So this is the dashboard that you arrive at now for the front end, the Hiring Manager portal. And as a recruiter, I can raise a vacancy from here. I can manage candidates from here. The whole working day-to-day process can be managed from this front end Hiring Manager portal. Of course, for your hiring managers, then they are going to get a restricted view, just like they would do in the back end. And if I just quickly change my browser here to Edge, you'll see here from the dashboard, I'm now Elsa, and I have less tiles on my dashboard here because as a hiring manager, I can see and do less. As you know, it is up to you what those hiring managers can do. So this is reflected now in the front end, the Hiring Manager portal. But just to give you a quick overview, I'm going to go back into Chrome as a recruiter. So from here, just to give you an idea of what you can do, of course, you can create a job, and this will give you access to your job requisition templates. And for a hiring manager, just those templates that they have the autonomy to use. I can also see a shortlist of all the positions. So from the shortlist menu here at the top, these, as a recruiter, are all the positions that I have live that I'm responsible for at the moment. For a hiring manager view, this would only be the positions that that hiring manager is responsible for. From here, of course, using the search function, I can drill down into there and see specific vacancies. So for the majority of what I'm going to do today, I do use a payroll team leader position. This is all fictional data. So obviously, I have positions which are set up that I can use. For your hiring managers, of course, they are able to click on View Candidates. And for your hiring manager, of course, the view is going to change. So if you are using our CV parsing and redaction service, that's another story. If you're not, but please contact the guys in the office. But the hiring managers will see a redacted view here, an anonymized view. So instead of the full person's name here, they will get a randomly generated 8-digit reference number. And of course, to assess the candidate, if you wish to use complete blind shortlisting, then the application form and the CV will be anonymized and redacted until the candidate reaches the interview stage. So all the processes from here can be run. As a recruiter, I can choose the different views that I want to work from. So just a different way of viewing that list of candidates. This is my preferred one. This is how I like to work on an individual candidate here now. I can move between candidates by clicking the forward and back arrow, or of course I can scroll up the list on the left-hand side, clicking on the candidate I wish to view, and then all the information on that candidate is presented here. And of course, for a hiring manager, that will also be anonymized until this candidate reaches the interview stage. At the bottom here, I can also see assessment information, which I am going to cover shortly. But of course, you can see here which stage the candidate has reached. If they have applied for any positions with you before, it will also give that history there. Of course, for a hiring manager, if they've applied for positions in different parts of your group or other departments, then of course that could be removed from that hiring manager's view. It is up to you. That's how configurable it is. And this is our hire checks module, which I'm sure we're going to be covering at another session. But for now, just so that you see exactly what's on view here. For interviews, of course, you do have an interview scheduler. So that, again, is part of the system. Whether you use the hiring manager portal or not, it's available in the front and the back end. It is up to you at which part of the system you do use the interview scheduler. Now, for coordinating interviews, of course, up here where it says interviews, you can click on that and, of course, view my schedules. As you know, for every vacancy, when it's created, you'll get an interview schedule created. This is now going to take me to the list. So I'll go to that payroll position one again. And down here in the bottom, you'll see I've got an interview schedule already created and live. If I view the schedule details here, this, of course, will be blank and empty for a new position that's just gone live. When you are ready to start putting in dates and times for interviews, then that is what you would set up from here or the back end of the system. And I'll go into the back end in a minute, show you how to do it from there. But from the hiring manager portal or the front end, you can see I've got some slots here already advertised. If I scroll down, I can see the candidates who have been invited to interview. They, of course, will get that automated email, which part of the notifications, you'll know that's part of the agenda for today. But of course, an invite can go out to candidates automatically when they have booked onto a slot or when they have been invited to an interview stage. All the communications can be automated. Again, part of that notifications that I will cover later on. But to add multiple slots. Now, at the moment, the interview scheduler, this is how it works. We are looking at integrating this potentially with a Calendly type option to give free rein for candidates booking on. But at the moment, you supply interview slots. Now, you can do this individually if you've already advertised, say, 10 positions and a candidate genuinely cannot make any of those sessions, you can just book that candidate on and create a bespoke slot. But to do it en masse, you literally just click on add multiple slots. It will remove this and take it offline for the candidates just for the moment. But then, of course, you can fill in dates and times as you wish. So working from the calendar option here, you can pick a date. You can pick a start time. So ideally, if you are putting aside a day, say I don't know, on that Friday, the 3rd of January, I think we're still going to be on holiday, but anyway, you can choose your start time. And then potentially you can even choose an end time. So let's just say I'm going to interview until 12:30 that day. I want one attendee per slot, because of course you can also use this if you are doing assessment days. If you have 25, if you want to invite 25 candidates to a selection of interview assessment slots, then of course you just put 25 in here, and that will allow 25 candidates to book onto that one slot. So if that slot was 9 till 12:30, as I have at the moment, that would just make one slot. The duration of the interviews here, of course, I can say down to 30-minute interview. And of course, I can choose a break in between the interviews if I wish. So let's just say I'll have a 30-minute break in between each interview. And then, of course, I can save this. This will then create additional slots, which will then be conveyed to those candidates when they are invited. So just by clicking on save, it will then take you through to the next step. I do then have to save this again and finalize. I want to say, am I sure? Yes, absolutely, I'm sure. Just want to check that this is the email I'm going to send. This is an automated email, which is going to invite the candidate. There is a link in that email as well, which enables the candidate to create a login to the candidate portal if they haven't done so already. This is really the last stage of that candidate's journey when they really need that login to the candidate portal. Again, part of your system configuration. We'll save that, and then this is going to go live for those candidates, and this is now broadcast to all the candidates that have been invited for an interview. They will get an email and they'll be invited to log in to the candidate portal. Just to give you an idea of what that can look for the candidate, I'm just going to go down here to Edge where I've got some other things open, and if I view the candidate portal here, you can see this is how it will look for the candidate portal now. The candidate can see the positions that they have been shortlisted for an interview, and then down here they can actually book on to those sessions. This is one I prepared earlier. This isn't live. So it's all about giving the self-service aspect, cutting down on your admin, and allowing the candidates to select the interview slot. Now, of course, when they do book an interview, they do so simply by clicking on book it. They will get an automated confirmation. I'm touching on that notifications area now, but just to give you an idea of just how much can be automated with those notifications and workflows, track types, they were called all different things. So an automated communication will go to the candidate confirming what they've booked. But most importantly, the confirmation goes internally as well as externally. So the candidate will get a confirmation. You can see here I've got a mixture of both online and head office interviews. So if you are doing online or Teams interviews at any point of the stage, maybe first interviews conducted via Teams or Google Meet or Zoom, we integrate with all three. So whichever of the platforms you use primarily for your interviews, you just add the Teams meeting room URL into your settings. Again, that's triggered from the Head and Shoulders icon. You've got your settings there. You introduce the Teams URL, and that confirmation that goes out then will include a link to that Teams meeting room. So all the candidates, of course, the wording as well on the notifications will differ. So your head office or on-site confirmation will say where to come, who to ask for, obviously confirming the date and time of the interview as well. Whereas for an online interview, you set up the meeting slightly differently, and then the confirmation, which is attached to the online meeting schedule, will then send that URL to the candidate with instructions. So, at the time you've selected, insert time, because the system can use mail merge to confirm the date and time. Then, of course, they click on that link, and then you'll be waiting there like we are today on Teams. Like I say, or Google Meet or Zoom, the URLs can all be added, and that is integrated as part of the interview scheduler. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about the interview scheduler is it also allows the candidate to release the slot once they've booked it. So for candidates that have booked, the wording here will change to release it. None of this having to ring in with a lame excuse as to why the candidate can't make it, and none of this ghosting, please. Let's not have any of that. So the candidate has autonomy to be able to change the booking. They click on release it, and the screen will refresh for the candidate then with any other available slots within that time period that you set up. If there aren't any, then of course the candidate will get a confirmation that they have cancelled their booking. And in that confirmation that they've cancelled can also be your contact details. So, if there aren't slots available that suit you, please give me a call. Of course, again, touching on the notifications, you will know internally as well that that candidate has cancelled. So maybe you want to ring the candidate if they don't rebook, and then put in a manual slot individually for that one person. Also on the interview scheduler, if I just go back now into Chrome, I've come out of it. Okay. There is also the ability to put in the interviewers as well, or your interview panel. They are also going to get copied into all the notifications. So they will know who has booked. And on their screen, on the dashboard here, you see they've also got the interviews today and coming up. So the interview panel will also be able to cross-reference from their dashboard here to see what interviews have got booked and what interviews are coming up. So just by clicking on here, that each individual person will see what interviews they have. Of course, for candidates who have rescheduled or cancelled their initial interview slot, the whole process is reversed. As I've said, the interviewers are copied, BCC'd into the confirmation. They're also BCC'd into the cancellation, and that will then allow the interviewers to easily remove this from their diaries. So wasted time. It's all wasted time. When you think you've got an interview and they don't show, and you've waited, you've prepared, maybe you've gone to a meeting room, you've booked a meeting room, that's even worse. You're using up, a meeting room when someone else could have used it. So all helps towards the candidate self-serving themselves with that interview schedule. And I've shown you this now through the hiring manager portal, or the front end of the system. Now I'm going to go into the back end of the system now, or the recruiter portal, as we always used to call it, because I want to show you the interview scheduler is here as well. If you don't have access to the hiring manager portal as yet, like I said, we'll facilitate that. If you just prefer to work in the recruiter portal, absolutely, you can still use the interview scheduler from here. It sits in the candidate section here, and you've got the interview scheduler. Exactly the same as before. We've got a different search option. And if I go to that payroll manager position here, the screen is very similar to what you've just seen. The setup exactly the same here, and nobody on this one, not finalized. Okay, so exactly the same setups. You click add multiple slots or add a new candidate. You can bring candidates in manually as well if you so wished, and then of course automatically they'll get that notification that they have been selected for an interview. So it's up to you whether you use the track changes, the workflows, the steps to invite the candidate for interview. In the hiring manager portal, of course, you can do this en masse as well, as you can in the back end. All the processes will work exactly the same in the front end and in the back end of the system, exactly the same. So that's the recruiter portal or the hiring manager portal. Some of the screens look slightly different because of the new look and feel, but they will work exactly the same. I also want to talk to you about assessing candidates now as well. And this is really important for your hiring managers. Hiring managers aren't generally trained in recruitment. And of course, if you are going to be using the anonymization and redaction, doesn't always give hiring managers a lot to go on. And like I said, when they're not trained in recruitment, some hiring managers stumble a little bit as to, you want me to assess the candidate, but what? All the information's anonymized or redacted out. All the traits that as people we look for are redacted out. So there's no bias. That's exactly as it should be. So the assessment criteria is going to help you give your hiring managers a steer as to what you want them, what traits do you want them to take from the information that's left on that candidate. Now, to set up the assessment criteria, again, you go to your configuration and it's in the customer settings menu. And down the bottom here, you've got assessment criteria. Like I say, if you haven't, you just turn it on through that dashboard menu item administration. The assessment criteria now, you can build up your own library ongoing. You can add questions whenever you like, as many as you like, building in questions which are relevant to you as an organization and relevant to the 2 stages. We've got a 2-step assessment criteria process here. Assessing the candidate at the point of application and also assessing the candidate at the interview stage. Those are the 2 key stages. Of course, to add any additional questions, you just simply click on the plus here and add the information as required. Now, let me show you. Each of the different steps is going to allow you to decide whether this is an interview question or whether this is a question for the interview stage. The question is also going to carry a weighting. Is it an essential or a desirable trait that you want that candidate to hold for this position? And this all goes towards the aggregation and that star rating. Again, I'll show you how that works in the front end in the hiring manager portal. But very simply, you just click on the plus, the green plus, add as many questions as you wish. Just make sure the tick is enabled. You're probably familiar with the way this back end works. And that's adding questions into your library. Now, of course, for bigger organizations with multiple departments and sections, some questions you always want to ask, others might be role specific or department specific. So you can also group these questions into logical grouping orders. So next on the list here, going down, is your assessment criteria groups. Here's some I prepared earlier. But of course, the easy option here is you just click on the big plus and you can build as many groups as you wish. Now, what this means is when you are applying the assessment criteria to a position, you can just add a group of questions. Now, to apply these questions to your vacancy, you do this on the job screen. So let's just close that and we'll go to jobs. Don't forget, this is all fictitious information here. So which one shall I use? Let's search for me. What's my surname? There we go. Couldn't think of the alphabet. And then I'll find my position, my payroll team leader position here. I go to the job configuration screen here. And from here, I am able to apply the job assessment criteria. Is under options. That will drop down. And from here now, I'm able to apply any questions. You'll notice here, there is a scoring, which I'll explain more in a minute. And here is that weighting. Is it an essential or a desirable trait that you wish that candidate to hold? And in which order do you want these questions to be presented? Now, up here are 2 important shortcuts. Copy criteria from another job and add all criteria from a grouping. So those groups that I showed you, you can apply a group of questions or you can copy a group of questions that you've done manually now on another position. All very simple. I am just going to go over this again in the hiring manager portal for those of you that use the hiring manager portal. So from here, I turn the hiring manager portal back on. And I go to my job, which is my payroll team leader position. I go to the job details here because this is like the requisition template. This is where I can see, obviously, I can see that this position is open in our fictitious environment here. I've got my overview here, but most importantly, in options here, I've got the assessment criteria again. From here, the same screen. Okay, so you can add the criteria from here exactly as before. It's exactly the same screen. You can add any questions manually. They've got to be in the menu, but you can bring from the menu any questions forward and apply them to this position. What does that look like to the hiring manager? Okay, let me show you. So if I just look at the applicants, the candidates that have applied now for this payroll team leader position, I view the candidates. Again, here I am a recruiter, so I've got full information. But let's do this now also as a hiring manager, so the two are concurrent. So from my hiring manager access now, I'm going to go to that shortlist. I'm going to look for that payroll team leader position, and I'm going to view the candidates. So don't forget now, I'm logged in on this browser and on Edge as a hiring manager. And this is what I've mentioned before. You've got that 8-digit reference number for all the candidates until they have reached the interview stage. This is pretty industry standard here now, because you at interview, you're going to meet the candidate anyway. So there's no need for the redaction and anonymization to continue. But at this point here, you are looking at anonymized information for the hiring manager. Now, for the hiring manager, you are able now to click on the 3-dot picker here on the left-hand side. Now, this is all anonymized now, so I haven't got a clue where I'm going. I'm going to go back into Chrome as a recruiter just so I know which candidate I'm clicking on, because they're all at different stages and I want to make sure the journey works well for you. So as the hiring manager, I click on the 3-dot picker here. I click on assess candidate. Like I say, I haven't got Scooby who this is, so I'm just going to go where I can see the candidates here. So we're going to look at Caroline. Exactly the same now. I can shortlist as a recruiter. Doesn't have to be anonymized for the recruiter. It's up to you on that process. But when I click on assess candidate now, for the hiring manager, this would be an anonymized application form that they can see. And they would also have access, oh, this one hasn't got a CV, okay, to a redacted CV. Now, here are the questions. This is where they're presented here on the right-hand side. So easy for your hiring managers now. When they're looking at this application form, a CV, if there was a covering letter as well, and they go, where do I start? Start with the questions on the right-hand side. These are the questions that you have decided are relevant for this position, and this is what you want the hiring manager to use to assess that candidate. This is what's going to create that star rating, which sits on the candidate dashboard or on the dashboard of the candidates that have applied. As you notice, every question has got a free type box. So your hiring managers and any assessors, assessment panels, anybody who's asked to assess the candidate can denote in here their reasons as to whether or not they want to take the candidate forward, or their reasons for their score rating. Now, for ease, I've just got met or not met in here. The wording, as you know, is completely up to you. It's all part of the setups. You can do this yourself. You can add the terminology you need. So this can be numeric. A lot of organizations use like a 1 to 3 scoring, or the wording. I think the wording maybe is easier for a hiring manager. Otherwise, if it's numeric, is 1 high or 3 high? Make it easy for them. Use terminology. So partially met, exceeded, not even close, or what you want to say. Okay. Your hiring manager goes through, they answer all of the questions. It's up to you. I've only got 3 here because I've got to fill them all in order for the star rating to aggregate and work. I've got to answer all the questions. But if you want 1 question, 10 questions, it is up to you. You work through the questions. You can also from here decide on the RAG rate as well. So that is another of the very obvious visuals on the list of candidates that have applied for each position. And it's all about presenting information quickly and easily to those that need to see. And that's what the hiring manager portal is all about. So your RAG rate, of course, your red, amber and green here, the icons deciding whether or not you want to take the candidate forward or pause them at the moment, or if you were a hiring manager, recommend to reject the candidate at this point. Now, as a hiring manager, I can also move to the previous or the next candidate. As I've gone to the next candidate, you'll notice now very quickly on the right-hand side, the questions have changed. So this candidate has been selected for an interview, and the questions will then automatically change. These now are questions which, if your hiring manager is the interviewer, then they can answer the questions here again. If it's the interview panel, then of course this is available to your interview panel. They can assess the candidate. And what I want to stress really is this is opinion. And when this is all completed and aggregated and it gives you the star rating on the next dashboard, that is your opinion of the candidate. So moving through the candidates, of course, when you're finished, you just click on the finish icon, and that's when everything aggregates, updates this screen, and you'll see you've got your stars. So it's not just a question of 5 stars, 5 questions, 5 positive answers. It's very clever. It's all done in the background though, okay? So you don't have to worry about that. You set the questions, your hiring managers, assessors, interviewers answer the questions. Only the questions are shown at the correct stage. So the interview questions will not show on a candidate's record until that candidate has been invited in for an interview. Both sets of star ratings now are showing here. So it's very easy to form an opinion. As you can see here on the RAG rate, there's a number 2 in the green icon. That means that 2 assessors have agreed this candidate could be taken forward to the next step. Of course, using the hiring manager portal, again, is all about visuals, okay? Making it very quick and easy to do any changes on this screen. On the far left, you've got the tick all, or you select the candidates that you want to progress. And then from your options icon here again, depending on the terminology you're using, on the stages that you've got set up, these progress steps here, every one of you could have an individual view of this based on your system configurations, but the principles are the same. The progress options here will be the ones which the user has got autonomy to use, and it will update the candidate's status to the stage based on how many candidates you've ticked to move en masse and what stage you've moved them to. So again, a very quick, easy, visual way of working here within the system. A lot more visual, I think, than the back end in the recruiter portal. And I think this is a huge plus now for your hiring managers. Again, the fact that they can do everything from here, the assessments, you can apply the assessment criteria from here as well. As I've shown you, the interview scheduler, day-to-day working, it's all about using the front end now. Okay, what else have I got to cover? Talent pools. Now, at the moment, the talent pool does sit in the back end of the system. With the new UI, the Recruit View version that we're going to be releasing imminently, then of course that will eventually come forward into the front end, into the hiring manager portal. But at the moment, sits in the back end of the system in the recruiter portal. So I am going to go back now into the back end of the system. And on the left-hand side here now, down the bottom, you see you've got your talent search menu. Now, this enables you to create any searches whatsoever within the system. Hopefully, you're using skills tags. Hopefully, you've got into the habit of when a vacancy is about to close, or when you've hired a candidate, of applying skills or search tags to those top candidates that maybe you interviewed, but sometimes you can only employ one person. There could be a really strong top 3 and you wish you could employ all 3 of them, but you can't. So these are candidates that you may want to add skills tags to. The skills tags are your own terminology. You build into the system the tags that you wish to show. And then, of course, you apply them to those close runners. Of course, all candidates that apply are going to be in your talent pool. You can have an evergreen or speculative vacancy as well. they will all be in the talent pool. And again, if you're using an evergreen vacancy, you can view that candidate and apply skills tags yourself, or use a drop-down option with questions for the candidate to do that for you. What skills can you bring to us? They can apply those skills, and that will then create a skills tag on that candidate. But to create a new search, click on New Search. Of course, what are we going to call this? So I've got to work with data that I know is in this demo system here, and 80% of it is rubbish. So I'm only going to get a small search here, but I'm going to, hang on, can't type and talk. I'm going to look for a finance person today. So as I scroll down here, one of the good things about Hireserve, well, many, of course, is that the talent pool is going to search through the documents that have been attached to the candidate's record, all the industry standard usual formats of documents, but primarily and most importantly, that candidate's CV and application form. And of course, covering letters as well, they can all be used to search. Your keywords now. Now, if you're not familiar with Boolean strings and Boolean terminology, just a very quick Google search will show you how to create a string. It's basically using keywords. So I'm going to look for finance and payroll information, payroll experience, but not HR. Okay, I'm going to save that search. That's created a search. And now I can go through many other options. Be mindful, the more filters you apply, the smaller that search is going to get. Sometimes that's a good thing because you don't want a huge amount of candidates who aren't suitable. So by applying multiple filters now, you are going to bring that search right down. So I can say, well, look, okay, as an organization, I have a lot of business support roles, but also a lot of maybe manual roles. I don't know whether you've got on the call today, you may be in manufacturing, building, construction. And of course, they're never going to have finance people who've applied for those roles. So by being able to search by the job type that they may have applied for previously, so I can search my jobs here. So I'm going to look for someone who's applied for a payroll type job. This brings up now all of the vacancies that I've had that have got the word payroll in them. So I'm actually going to choose all of them because anybody that's applied for a payroll job may have finance experience that I'm looking for my search. I'm going to close the screen and save that option. Then, of course, I can scroll down through the other filters. Now, job-specific questions, again, a good way of bringing that search right down. So if you've used job-specific questions before, you'll have your list of job-specific questions. But most importantly now, those search tags or skills tags, as they're called, and organizations use different terminology. You'll see that everywhere I've been, there is the option of a must to have and a nice to have. So if I'm looking at skills tags now, I'm going to say, well, it would be nice if I'd applied a skills tag to that candidate, maybe something to do with finance, administration. Let's just leave it at that. I save that. This is where I'm going to cross my fingers. I'm going to scroll to the very bottom and I'm going to search now for candidates. We found some candidates. It's all fictitious. That's why I'm worried. So from here, this list now is going to present to you the candidates that have matched all of that criteria, all of those search fields. They are in descending order. So the top candidate here, Karen Beaumont, is the candidate who has matched everything to the best degree. Of course, if you're using many filters that are a nice to have, that list will trickle right down. From here, of course, I can see as a recruiter, I can see how the candidate has matched, which keywords were the best match. I can also view the candidate's CV and their previous record. But most importantly now, I can create a folder or a bucket of candidates. I can choose, well, I can say, well, look, I only want those that have been a pretty good match. So I'm just going to tick the first few, or as before, I can tick all of them. And now I can add these candidates to a folder. I can do that individually, as you saw from this highlight here, or I can do this en masse and multiple. So up here in your options, you've got populate folder. Now, of course, if you've done this search before and you've had maybe a selection of positions since you last did the search, a selection of positions that might have held suitable candidates, you may want to update an existing folder, which of course you can do. I tick the add to existing folder, and then I can search through here to see a type of folder. Sorry, carpenters made me laugh. Sorry. I can see a type of folder. I can add it to finance experience folder. There's already 48 candidates in there, and I can populate these extra candidates into that one folder, keeping it updated. So I can keep running the search, updating existing folders, or I can create a new folder. As you know, from the folders area, this now is anonymized information. This can be shared. So if you want these candidates to be considered and shortlisted, maybe by a hiring manager, then of course the candidate folder can be shared with people outside of the recruitment team. And if you go to the the candidates folder from here, you can see, of course, now that is anonymized information. But of course, anybody who is shortlisting from here should be seeing anonymized information, and they can add their comments as to whether they want to take that candidate forward, whether they want to consider them for a different role, using the assess candidate icon just here. Oh, sorry, I clicked on it twice, but the assess candidate icon here. Hopefully now that's just giving you a little taste of how the talent search will work. Of course, down the bottom here on the left, you'll notice I've got my searches, which are searches that I've run before and saved. You can just rerun those, so you don't have to configure them each individual time you're using a search function. But if you are using slightly different criteria every time, then you can configure them differently. But of course, I guess the key thing is if you're looking for apples, search for apples, not apples and oranges. Otherwise, you're going to get mixed fruit bowl. And that may suit you some occasions, but by saving a search means you're not going to sneak in an extra filter, which may filter out somebody that you are looking for at the end of the day. Okay. The final point that I want to sort of just touch on today is huge. So I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview on notifications now. It's going to start off in your configuration screen here. Every notification, as the word suggests, is going to send a message to somebody, usually internally, but of course the workflows and track types will go externally. So to start off notifications, really you need to start from the end of the journey with what you want to send. What message do you want sent out? So we're going to start off here with your email library. And of course, from here, don't look too closely, this is all fictitious data, but test data as well. So from here, you can build a new email. You can create a new email just by clicking on the plus icon up here. But if I just go to this one here, for example, by clicking on the edit pen, of course, this is where the email is configured. Who are you going to send it to? What is going to trigger this step? What is going to trigger sending this? Is it a tracking type or stage? You've got all the configurations here. It is a huge area. So if any of you are not using the automated messaging notifications, then, maybe, a bit of a training session on it. But this is where it starts off from the library of emails. And then, of course, you need to know why are you sending this? Who are you sending it to? So what is the trigger? And of course, that will be a track type. So from here, well, let's just choose anyone here. Application, assessment, no, application workflow, let's use that one. Clicking on the edit icon. Again, this is the next step in the journey. What is the trigger? Who is it going to go to? And this, of course, is where you link the email to the actual process that you are setting up. So does it go to anybody other than the candidate? And what is the email that you're going to send? That's where you connect the email. So you start with the end of the journey with the email. You then can then bring that email into your tracking types. All the setups are here, all the configurations. It's all here to help you. And all that automation can then be triggered. So, for example, when you move a candidate to the interview stage, for example, then that is a track type. And that is the email which then goes out to the candidate saying you've been shortlisted for an interview. They're unlimited. The possibilities here are huge. So if you're not exploiting all the possibilities here, again, contact either Johnny or Sharon, and they'll be able to help you or guide you with where to go, what the next steps are, and how to set things up. So that is really just a very quick overview of notifications, because like I said, I could do an hour on that, setting all that up. But if you don't know if you don't know it's there and you're not using it, that's what today is all about. It's the season for giving, let's face it. So this is why we're giving you the knowledge. And whilst they say that it's better to give than receive, I actually want to revert that and say, what we'd like from you now is to receive your feedback. Okay, that is really important. So giving and receiving is important. Please send us back off the feedback. I'm going to hand over now to Johnny, who's going to mention and explain about the feedback that he wants from you. I hope I've touched on enough today, and whet your appetite for a little bit. So over to you, Johnny. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. That was absolutely brilliant and a really, really good session, which I'm sure everyone's found incredibly beneficial. So my thanks to yourself. I'm sure everyone will want to thank you themselves. So please feel free to drop Elaine a thank you note in the chat box just there. As Elaine mentioned, in terms of evaluation form and any questions, we've seen the questions coming in. Thank you for asking those. There's been quite a few coming through. So Sharon and I will come back to you as our respective customer success managers to answer those. There will be an evaluation form coming out from either myself or our colleague Jamie. And we'll also be sharing a recording of today's session as well. So if any of your colleagues weren't able to join, they'll be able to run back through that, but of course yourselves as well to refresh your memories of the fantastic features that Elaine's touched on today. At the bottom of this slide here, you'll notice obviously the link to the customer portal. All the Hireserve user guides have now been uploaded to the customer portal, which will cover a lot of today's functionality and a bit more. So the interview scheduler, for example, the assessment criteria both have user guides available there. We're going to start looking at other sessions in the new year as well. So for example, the report builder has a user guide in the hub at the moment as well. So we might be able to touch on that in the new year too. Also, I noticed a question about GDPR and data retention. There's a less exciting but an all-important GDPR guide in there as well, if that's of interest to you and your teams. As Elaine mentioned a few times in the session as well, we're going to be rolling out Recruit View in the new year, which is our new UI, could even be before the end of the year, which we'll be holding a session on in the new year too. So please look out for the invite on that when it comes out. As well, in the community portal, our ideas portal is soon to be going live as well. I think, if you guys have ideas about what you want to see in Hireserve, our product team want to hear that from you. It's a Reddit style forum where you're able to upvote on ideas that have been raised, and obviously you can raise ideas yourself too to be considered by our product team. So please raise those, and we'll do our best internally to make sure that the most frequently requested features are worked into our roadmap. We really do want to hear from you. So if there's specific topics, specific features that you want to see us covering in the new year in our XCD and Hireserve University sessions, please let us know and let us know in the evaluation form. I think someone just mentioned there that reporting would be a key feature. I'm not surprised to hear that. So I think that's one we can definitely focus on in the new year. Again, our thanks and my thanks to Elaine and Sharon for joining today, and thanks so much again, Elaine. That's a really, really informative session, which I'm sure everyone found incredibly useful. And from our side, we just want to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas, and we're looking forward to working from you in the new year, and look forward to hearing from you on any questions you have after today's session. Please reach out to us. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Thanks again to Elaine. If there's anything you need from us, please reach out to us. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks now.
Thanks, everyone.